That's how we read it. I don't know what it means. That's what it's called by the theater. Yes. From there, you can just smell others over the right side.
khi mà về định được
Actually, I went to the temple once, I did it together, so I need to go to the restaurant.
How long have you been up and down?
So I will come out and then sometimes I try to review it and then come back to the one.
That's okay, but that's fine. But don't help yourself out, that's just fine. Some minimum, and you maintain a minimum. Or you can make your order, that's fine. And you come back to minimum. And then after some time, you find, maybe I can manage enough to make you do this. And just pay it. So, then when you do one. Like that, slowly. Slowly. But that's if you don't have an acid over your head. You have a deadline. You have some flexibility to it. In other words, isn't it more matters? If association is the most important thing, I can imagine your sister is kind of It doesn't do that.
First time out.
Okay. Well, here's something that may be helpful, may not, I don't know. You mentioned Shamsundar. Shamsundar is a nice devotee, and every morning for the past couple of years, he has a japa call. He will join the japa call. And I know people that have been since 16 months. They join this call and their chances went up a whole bunch. Absorption and the sense of being connected. And then it tests his personality is very warm. And you might see associated with the one. Something to consider. You have to go up a bit, and it's not like yet. Some enjoy, drop off and do what you gotta do. I don't do it. Right? But I haven't did anything beyond. How many more years of study do you have here? Oh, 1 year more. Put a measure of bhakti in that 1 year. And see what happens. Once upon a time, this says some feedback. Once upon a time, I had more discretionary time than I have today. And one of the things that I did, people wanted, I asked them to fill out a sadhana chart. So those who did it, yeah, tell me weekly or whatever it was, it was sent. And those that did it for some period of time, there was a very consistent realization. There's a one-to-one correlation between how well I absorb in my chanting and how my day goes. When it was poor, the day was rocky and troublesome and upside down. And when it was strong, the day just went more slowly and got much more accomplished. And I had the same experience. Yeah, that's my experience. 2 lifetimes ago, college student. And I was chanting 4 rounds. And I heard about chanting 16. I don't know if it's work, that would be possible. But I know there's others that are doing it. So let me give it a try. I give it a try. So what happened was, chanting, I found that my requirement for sleep reduced by 2 hours a day. And then for those 2 hours a day, I chanted, and then because I chanted in the morning like academic work, that took much less time, much greater clarity. And so now I got discretionary time to impose a meal. I didn't plan it. I wasn't like bumped up for something like that. But that's what happened. Okay. I was, where was I planning time to start the meal? But it was there. So association will help. In my case, it's just like, let me try it kind of commitment. I I didn't know it was gonna be on the other end, but. Somebody, there's a nice young man, right across the street from where I'm staying, is a family. And I know his son, Dominic Sean, and he is now doing his medical studies. He started, his medical studies up here. Little fellow saying, as difficult as it is, I can be my upfront every day without feeling that way. And if I feel strength from it, and so if he can do it, I would love to say that. But if he can do it in medical school, you can do it in master's degree.
What I was trying to, I'm not sure, something sounds easy, but something really more like to, exact, to not studies. Why I'm not doing the last grade, maybe, as others are.
No, I regret that you said it. It's not pressure, it's just encouragement.
No, because the other time you do it only, in my own family, where there was a lot of we didn't know that they were going to be that, we could have done that. So, it's just like, maybe you should come like one, two, maybe. Exactly, I'm not sure how to put it right. But like my mother, she was not really, and now she is starting to say, the also she was very surprising for all of us. And but we who started like, oh, I thought
We started attending council the focus call in the morning around 6:30 he joined. I told him like he's in a very busy phase of his life right now, but I told him just at least like 15-20 minutes of hearing is also good enough. So he's been doing that and
I just
just started.
How long ago?
He would say why I just started.
Well, that's a good start. And how many found it was a training?
Yeah, it helps me to focus and complete. And the important thing is like the stories of all the reincarnations, like, which I was not aware of, and like let to know.
We spent a good time.
After the chanting, we will talk about them and the songs.
Yeah, 6:30, 4:30 he has a like he starts the guided meditation at 4:30 sharp, which goes for around 15 minutes, and then people are chanting, and then at 6:30 again he plays a bhajan for 5-7 minutes, and then and after that we are reading about acharyas. So now we are reading about so he just started, so he, getting introduced to, but I think you've been chanting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also planning to do Bhakti Shastri now from his Bayahari Prabhu.
I will start this. I read a lot of time, but I listened also, but sometimes all the, like, it seems similar. I couldn't distinguish a lot of
How the pieces fit together.
yeah, there are so many contradictory things.
I'm trying to do that. He has taught the entire cycle of Bhakti Shastri about 4 or 5 times. best thing for training funding is the application. And it's an exercise.
Should we structure
Mhm.
these slides? Structure it, and it's almost very interactive in that way, like people want to speak once it starts. So yeah, I found it like very, get that works. But part of the course was from very high level.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't exactly like.
Issue.
Just started coming to the Yoga question, found her about like 3 weeks back, I guess. When I know Krishna Maharaj was here 2 weeks back. And then we took her to the temple on Ram Purnima. She's from Delhi, so she's a visitor Vrindavan. I think that's also chanting, right? Yeah, so she was a chanting. So. Yeah, that's very new.
But I'm very inconsistent.
New and inconsistent go together.
But I was not really starting that I promised to connect as long back, so I know that I keep chanting and I will bounce back, but I also have my outside down.
There's a nice Sanskrit phrase for it, so you're understood about it. You're in good company. This is standard. And the stage in between unsteady and steady. Come on over here. Is anartha nivritti. Artha means something wanted, and anartha is something unwanted. And nivritti means to do it. Unsteady and steady is removal of anything of things in the heart. That's the concept of the unsteady. This is, it takes different shapes, distraction, and this and that, emotional turbulence, and things like that. Steady, regardless of the circumstance, that the heart goes, the mind goes, the intelligence goes, and you go. The obstacle is the things in the heart that are distracting. Natural cleansing. Okay, that's okay. That's not a problem. There's you familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam? Here's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Akama, sarva kamova, moksha kama, udara D is broad intelligence. D is intelligence. Udara, broad intelligence. Those who have broad intelligence. Tivrena, Tivra means like strong, intense. Tivrena, bhakti yogena, yajeta purusham param. So whether one is in either one of these three categories, sarvakama, mokshakama, akama. Those who have broad intelligence may go for yoga. Strong emotional service. Yoga. He probably had bigger desires than you. And that was his religious tank. That's what he was after. And what Narada said, you're not going to get those kind of desires. Good advice, but I'm Kshatriya, my mother, my stepmother's affinity. And my mom said, Vishnu can help you get the kings. Can you help me get Vishnu? And he did. The obstacle itself is not the material desire. If you're Buddhist, that's the obstacle. And if you're a devotee of Vishnu, the obstacle is ignorant desire. It's ignorance. We're going to speak about it down here at 7 o'clock. Right here, 7 o'clock. The difference between the goal of a Buddhist, nirvana, and the goal of yoga. The goal of yoga, the obstacle, I'll just do this little preview for this 7 o'clock. The teaching of Buddha says the root cause of all suffering is desire. The way to get free from suffering is to become free from desire. And how do you become free from desire? 2 things. Live a life of goodness, non-violence, compassion, etc., truthfulness, cleanliness, control of the senses, mode of goodness. And then in that incubation chamber, you put meditation. And it depends on the varieties of Buddhism, but you meditate in such a way that you detach your mind from everything temporary. When I was in college, I did some of that. Because I didn't know what was what, so I did some of that. And when the mind becomes detached from desire, it's called enlightenment or nirvana. Nirvana means cessation of material existence. And when you cease material existence, what do? Nothing. Because it's a state of void, or nothingness. So the teaching of the Vedas is the root cause of suffering is, there's a different fill in the blank, it's ignorance. And from ignorance comes ignorant desires. From ignorant desires comes ignorant activity. From ignorant activity comes suffering. So the root is ignorance, and free yourself from ignorance. And you can have desires to do stuff like Dhruva had, or most people do, not just Dhruva. And then you can work your way through the illusory part, and on the other side of bell rings, you've made a connection, although the impetus for making that connection may be something else. The Neighborhood Parks Board Association. Is yoga going on upstairs?
Yes.
Down third floor?
Yeah, no, on the fifth
Up,
floor,
fifth
yeah,
floor,
up,
up.
yeah.
He stopped during the COVID time, but he started up again.
Yes, the
Okay.
semester is that.
But there's fewer students.
Around average is around 35.
Oh, for that big space, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, we generally fill in with room, but this semester for 2 or 3 sessions, we did not go for. This entire week, we were trying to see if they can, assign us a bigger room. Somehow, I can see the next room being vacant, and I tried, like, telling them, giving you the number. I didn't know. I feel maybe not rooms being vacant, but they're not assigned. So I'm going to take it up.
That's the job of the president. Take a picture. Take a picture of the empty room.
Yes.
Perhaps they might have someone who is wrong or something, because they look at me as
We'll see what they tell you. Yeah.
make sure it's actually able to.
You know, and then they made us pay for the, like, not much low, but still, like, we don't pay.
Paying is at the top, they have the right space. That's what
Yeah,
they
I
want.
told them to give adjacent room, like, on the fifth floor, we can have yoga, and then again, the adjacent room, the lecture room, the fire room, we're willing to pay, but she said, no, it's not available. Rather than jumping here and there.
Okay, any topics any of you all have been around for a while would like to discuss?
Oh, so he graduated, but he's working full time now, he's from IIT, Patna actually. He did his master's mechanical and electrical. So sorry. Yeah, and then he's working full time, but he's working remote, so he's still in all this station. And he's like doing the club for a couple of years now. He's also chanting. He was planning to do Bhakti Shastra with us now. So that's.
You also gonna start with the Bihari? Fantastic.
Yeah, partner. Yeah, that's a good.
Just one
That's the class, and there's homework. I'll say, there's a system for studying 4 basic texts, kind of like ABC. Bhagavad Gita is one. I don't know which one he starts with. Ishopanishad, Sri Ishopanishad, it's short, skinny book. Nectar of Instruction, another skinny book, and another that's a little bit longer. The function. Those 4 books, and you'll little by little by little by little work your way through with overview and notes, and so you know where you're going before you get on the train. It gives a picture of the essential devotional text. And it's very standard throughout the world. I just got a letter today from somebody from Singapore, and they're taking one of the courses from India. So it's different all over the world. Not like boot camp, it's just basic, foundational kinds of things that are very useful. Especially the production. So you're still around because you're doing remote work and you just like being around here.
What my friends are looking around.
Is that remote standard or status going to change soon?
Our company is still a startup, so it's going to be remote and on this project.
That's 2 years now, what about?
Our company side.
That's as well?
Yeah, they asked me like whether I want to come there or not. I said it's going to then they said okay, where I will.
So Pakistan Street then, that'll be helpful. And you're considering?
Yes.
You're considering. You're on pause. No pressure. No.
I think I will finish my second and I will finish it.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. So any discussion topics? We have.
I tried to limit to 5 questions, but.
Well, that's fine. I'm fine. I like this.
I think whoever wants to go first.
You start.
Yeah. So my first question was in the public data. It must be there are two types of people, infallible and fallible. So it almost felt while reading the translation at least that it seems the people who are fallible are always fallible and the infallible are the way they are. So, but in the purpose, the fallibles have the choice of
Yeah.
way forward. So, yeah, so the question here was like I got a little disturbed by reading that because the entire process and the entire effort is to make it be on that level. But the translation basically essentially say that
You, you should to understand the meaning of text. The commentary is essential. That's a little Prabhupada story. When I say Prabhupada story, that's from the Charya. The author of the translator of the books. So, this is 1970. It's a printing press in Boston. And I was living in Boston. And, straight from college to Boston. Because Crawford wanted to print our own books rather than having a printer books. He had them purchase a printing press. The person in charge of the printing press asked, is it okay if we make a little pocket verse only of the Gita that you can print to people to keep in the pocket and then pull it out and read the verse? He said, no. He said, the reason no is because they won't understand the meaning. They went on to say, when you look at different translations of Bhagavad Gita, the meaning of the translation of the verse is not so different. It's the explanation of the verse. So to understand the meaning of the verse, you need explanation. So, how to understand the meaning? If you take teachings that come from specific successions, the audiences change over time, but the essence doesn't change over time. How it's expressed may vary according to time and circumstance, but the essence doesn't change. So how to understand? I guarantee if you read what Prabhupada wrote in his purports, and you go to the not members of the specific succession, you'll find the same explanation. Customized for the audience of their time, but the essence doesn't change. So that's the detail. That how to understand it. It's not you're locked into this or that.
What's his question? Keep it more ask.
I'll go a little deeper.
Right.
You two probably know, you should know. Prabhupada had a spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta. Bhaktisiddhanta had a spiritual master, Lord Kishore. And then the previous Acharya in the Sikh tradition was Bhakti-Vinod Thakur. So Bhakti-Vinod Thakur characterized the essential teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the essential teachings of the Vedas as having 10 essential teachings. is when you act in that relationship, there's another set of teachings. What does that look like? Abhidheya, acting in that relationship. The language is different. He wrote 100 books. And in about 70 of those 100 books, those 10 teachings are there. So it's much more for the road. He didn't like go to pull it off the tree and said this is what it means. Those are the liberated or the perfected being. They're eternally nitya, siddha, eternally burning. And then there's those who are in bondage, bata. But some can become perfect. And the process. That process is that Abhidheya, acting in that relationship. Gradually, gradually. And then steady to steady, right? Yeah.
So, we said there is always, it's there,
Having attained that stage of transcendence, control will never return. That's consistent with the teachings of the Vedas. Krishna says it in Bhagavad Gita directly. Anything else?
Why do you fall down in their mission?
Classic question. There's a short answer that most people say, yeah, but. So the short answer is misuse of free will. Intrinsic, that as a spark has the qualities of the fire but tiny, as a drop of water has qualities of the reservoir of water but tiny. The living entity has qualities like the Supreme but tiny. The Supreme has unlimited free will. Living entities have tiny free will. Free will means you can go this way or that way. You can use it properly or improperly. So when that free will is used improperly, here we are. Then comes the question, well, why did we misuse that free will? Why did we use it improperly? We're looking for a cause. Because there isn't a cause other than the misuse of free will. Wait a minute. We only know cause and effect. We know stuff that has, this is the effect of such and such cause. So what's the cause? So I want a cause. The answer is, you can properly use or you can misuse. It doesn't need a cause. We're fallible. We're tiny. So we have a tendency to properly or improperly. Act intelligently, act foolishly. There's another answer that comes out kind of the same. The other answer is, in our present circumstance, that question we will not find an answer to. Because it lies beyond our frame of reference, our present frame of reference. But when you become realized, then you'll understand. Well, I understand now. Okay, go ahead, want to understand now. But it's beyond our experience, because our experience is everything has a cause. So what's the misuse of free will cause? It's intrinsic to the soul. It doesn't need another cause, not something outside. And there has to be, there is, and there has to be free will. Because we're part of the supreme that has unlimited free will. And there's another explanation. The goal is the stage of love. And for love, it's not, there's a choice. It's yes or no. Not somebody coming by the collar and saying, look, if you love me, or else. And there isn't or else. Well, it is love me, right? It's the volition. And volition can be misused. And volition can be properly used. So the root cause of suffering is ignorance. If original ignorance is that misuse of free will. There isn't, you find a good reason, you try to find a good reason, you won't find one because there isn't one. It's very unreasonable. But free will is there. We just have to redirect that free will. It's slow and gradual because we're conditioned by the forces of the material energy. Starting with misidentifying ourselves with being something that we're not. Okay, we have 8 minutes. There's silence.
So the second question was, I think it's about so, how would you classify Dhanapati? Would he be classified as an infant or a family?
Oh, if he was fallible, the something became infallible.
Yeah. So
If that's the category he fits. Because before he was not, he was something else.
yeah.
And before he was at something else, he was something else.
Okay. So the third category.
He didn't have to become. He had to become perfect.
So if is it fallible, infallible as one category?
Well, amongst the, you could make it into 3, but of those who are fallible, but this has 2 subsets.
So like this question, specific question was logging in for the entire, because we also have.
Really? This is called the stump the swampy question.
I just really want to know the answer to it. So the desire part, when we say everything, when we talk about the soul, everything comes down, boils down to desire. And everyone has their desire. That is the only thing we do, that we have to take out of the great part of everything that makes us. The final thing that is left is the desire. So the question is, if we have,
That's a premise that I don't know if I. Then you could say other things. You could say faith. The soul. Yeah. Soul inside. The premise of your question and question.
Yeah, the premise was made based on the fact that you can either go towards Krishna or away.
That's correct. That's a pretty low.
So if that is the case, like when the intangible became like tangibles become the intangible thing. If everybody is feeling this, what is the difference between this?
And that's like, wait a minute. This is Dr. Neil Thakur. Dr. Neil Thakur says, right, in English, what with translators is English. Do not ask the misleading question. When will the entity created? Or when will the entities were enthralled? Because it's an event that does not take place in time. Once it's an event, it does not take place in time. Because we only know that it takes place in time. That's your question. And why? Well, you can say when. That the when and the why are misleading. It's as if once upon a time, we're in the spiritual world, and time tells us, you know what? I think that You know, the mysteries of free will has an event in time, but it's not an event in time. It's an event, but it's not an event in time. What's an event? It's not within time. It's not within our experience. That's why we can't understand it. What's an event? It's not within time. There's no such thing in our experience. Go back to Dr. Thakur says, do not ask the misleading question. When will this entity be created? Because they're not created. They're existing eternally. We say many entities are fragmental parts of the Supreme. They sound like once upon a time the Supreme is there saying, gosh, I'm alone. Not like that. Once upon a time. It's kind of once upon a time. You frame the question as if it's an event of time, and you're it's a misleading premise. Then comes the other. That we're not understand it of the lens or the frame of reference of our intent. It will. You know it. So what's an event? It's not in the frame of time as we know it. It's a fact. And we should be known. And one can speak about the properties of being known once again. Is an eternal connection once again. Where is eternal connection? It's like amnesia. Somebody gets bumped in the head and they have amnesia. And they don't remember anything. They remember them, they remember their family, they remember that. And when the amnesia wears off, then they recognize it all. Regaining our original consciousness is regaining our original consciousness. And each has gone, the vanity is gone. The illusion of having separate existence and separate desire from the supreme is gone. The original consciousness is restored.
The desire part again, like
Your dad never forgot.
so then
Me too.
so when I say like how am I and him are different, we say there are these 5 things like earth, fire, water, that's the body. And then if we go beyond that, the subtler events like intelligence,
Yeah, let's talk about it.
subtle body, the whole thing. Now if we go beyond that, the only thing that stays with us is the desire.
No, that's your same premise again. We both stays with you. Consciousness stays with you. You can anesthetize consciousness and it looks like it stopped. But it hasn't, just in the years of the consciousness is unconscious, the soul is conscious and consciousness. The doctrine of life is the only thing that's in the first features of the soul. Back to love.
We say that in a way, but all of this is gone, and we are at the core of it.
Okay.
So we are, how are we split it? Because all of them have the same consciousness, all of them have the same.
No, the variety of personality, the variety of rasa, variety of taste, variety of happiness, their subjective experience, individuality exists. Krishna has counterpoise, they're not all the same. Radharani has expansion, the gopis are expansion, but they're all different. Some are like this, some are like that, some are compliant and some are sassy. And you know, and there's a variety amongst them. The center of all this. Sure. Yeah. But then, you know, what he's thinking about is what supposing you or I or any one of us gets to the stage where karma is dissolved, then what's ruling our life if karma is dissolved? Because there's a state where karma is dissolved. This is the potential. And when we get to that state, then what? We're governed, but we're governed by another potency besides the karma potency. That other potency is, there's names for it, it's sensual, but it's the spiritual potency. Yes, yeah. And within the material frame, there's three primary modes that mix. And when they mix, you get all variety. Just like primary colors mix, you get all colors. So three modes, you get spiritual energy acting on this way, that way, the other way, you mix. You have all varieties of conditions, all varieties of species, varieties of temperaments. As the modes, there's different from karma. There's some connection, but it's not a one-to-one connection. But there's a state where there's no karma and there's no modes. One is just its negation. It's not this. And then there's what it is. It's not this. And what is it? And that's what yoga is teaching. This is what it is. Yes, it's not bad. Yes, absolutely. With our needs, sure. There's conditioned needs, and then there's transcendental needs. When you get in touch with it, you know, one lens, a standard lens, is through the scriptural text. The source of that wisdom is or transcendent. You look at things through the lens of speculation. It's distorted and imperfect. Look at through the lens of transcendence, and you can see. I'm trained in seeing through that lens. You don't become you see through that lens, you can see through the mode of nature lens. Hold the actual word. Tell somebody that.
We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're different on the spiritual plane. But those spiritual plane differences are covered over by karma and modes of nature that then make bodies, and that we don't see what the real needs are. We see the ones that they really aren't, so we're pursuing that stuff. So we for something, for companionship, for something. Need for economy, need for, something, creativity, some need. So that's the condition one can take those away. And then there's the spiritual personality. How are we doing? It's 5 minutes after Chelsea Trail. Should we start? It's 5 minutes after. What do we do? Okay. 2 minutes to do that.
You know that? You know that? The money.
Come on, just sit it in the front.
And then he had
Maharaj can use the photo and right on register. First Maharaj photo to Jeshi. రెండు connect
I can see where my camera is.
Portable రెండు తీసుకుంటారు.
No, it doesn't. You don't understand.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Try. I can't find which one to work for.
అది రెండు
The projector, just to get it to work.
This is not the one.
Yeah.
This is fake camera.
ఓకే అవుట్పుట్ 100 మైక్రోఫోన్ రావచ్చు ఈ కంప్యూటర్ దీని నుంచి వచ్చే సౌండ్ ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేస్తుంది అది కింద పెట్టాలి
Okay, do it.
100 థింగ్స్ వస్తాయి
You're on camera.
ఇది ఉంది కదా దిస్ ఈజ్
No, don't tell me. Just do it. For so long. Just do it.
That's it? Okay.
All right, let's settle in. So today is a special session. So for those who have not attended the yoga sessions, we usually have it in a single room, and usually it's Radha 601. And for today, we have a special session where we had the yoga upstairs, and then we are continuing here. So today we have a very, very special speaker. We are very fortunate to have His Holiness Romapad Swami visit us today. For those who don't know, he's the one who inspired and encouraged Tripti and Jayan to start this club at TAMU when they moved to College Station. They met him at Penn State University, the Bhakti Yoga Club there, way back in 2005. And since then, that is for like last 15 years, they have been receiving more on him. Romapad Swami is a distinguished scholar in Vedic theology, science, ethics, and culture. His professional responsibilities include facilitating systematic spiritual education and training. His singular attention to developing good qualities in students and people in general have made him a revered teacher in university campuses. As a part of his vocation, he has been regularly invited to give seminars and short courses by prestigious universities in the US like MIT, Harvard, Penn State, etc., and corporate giants like Microsoft and Google. We are very happy to have him at Texas A&M University. We feel very grateful toward him for taking the time off his busy schedule to visit us once a semester to share his wisdom and guide and encourage us on our spiritual journey. We hope many students here at TAMU benefit from his association and interaction with him. So feel free to interact with him, ask him any questions related to spirituality, and let's put together our hands for him.
It's probably best if you close the door. I think the first time I presented this topic was at Georgia Tech. And because they also have a yoga session along with their weekly class at Georgia Tech. So that some question came up during the yoga, does yoga and the concept of nirvana connect? So I was asked to speak about it, so that's what this topic is. a nice illustration showing a stairway that goes up and up and up and up and up and up. And the idea of higher consciousness is meant to be portrayed by the image. And in the process of Buddhism, that staircase leads to a place that's called nirvana. And what is nirvana and how does nirvana compare to the conclusion of the path of yoga? That's our topic. And the path of the term nirvana is a Sanskrit term. Nir means not, and vana means forest. So it's like out of the woods. You're beyond the stage of material existence. Cessation of material existence, nirvana. And beyond the nirvana is where the path of yoga takes one, if one follows it completely and properly. And one of the things that Buddha did, you're probably well aware, he had objection to the misuse of Vedic texts because there were some persons who were misusing Vedic texts saying it justifies killing animals. So he decided animal killing is bad. The principle of nonviolence is the principle that one should live one's life by. And so he rejected the Vedas. And instead, he gave another teaching. And most of you, I'm standing here instead of standing right up in front of you because I'm able to look at my screen. As many of you know, when he was young, teenager, he was taken in a royal carriage here and there about the kingdom. And as he traveled about, he saw suffering. And rather than detailing, because there's details of how he saw that suffering, he saw that the suffering was due to people involving themselves in trying to fulfill material desire. He decided, based upon that, I don't want a life that has suffering that's based upon pursuing material desire. And so he decided to go a different path. And the different path he went was, he went into seclusion, engaged in meditation. Now, when you engage in meditation, probably many of you have done, let's say, is there anybody here that has not done some type of meditation of one form or another? Everyone has. So when you do some type of meditation, it means you encounter the modes of nature. Because the mind, as everything else in this material world, is influenced by the modes of nature. According to Bhagavad Gita teaching, the modes of nature are three: goodness, passion, and ignorance, just like the three primary colors. Yellow, red, and blue, and you mix those three primary colors and you get all colors. There's a paint store in New York called Pinchicks, and you can take them a chip of paint that's in your home, and they give you, they pass it through a refractive index machine, and they can make an exact replication of that particular color paint. Costly, but there's a way to mix colors and get exactly what you want. So same way, the modes of nature, all the varieties in this world are resting upon these modes of nature. And goodness is the mode of nature that meditation is best suited for. Because passion is where the mind is very, very busy doing and planning and searching for happiness through activities, through material activities. Ignorance is lamenting over the past. It didn't work out well. Things happened that were bad. So passion is living in the future, planning, trying to become an enjoyer that's not yet happened. Ignorance is lamenting over the past, and goodness has this understanding of being present. Like one of the phrases in Buddhism is mindfulness. Everyone knows that phrase, mindfulness. In Chicago, there's a burger joint they call it the Mindful Burger. In preparing for a seminar on mindfulness, I asked the person mindful manager. So mindfulness, as my point is, has been be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. And when you become successful at being in the moment, what's the experience? The experience is the experience of reference to Bhagavad Gita, but you live according to those qualities. You frame your life in the quality of goodness and try to be in the moment. In the moment. And when you get really good at it, you're in the moment. And then when you're in the moment, you want the other side of the moment. And what that other side is nirvana. What do you do there? Nothing. Because it's a state of nothingness or a state of void. And the explanation, some of you have Bhagavad Gita, or if you don't, you can get one on the book table in the back. And you can take a look at Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 20 through 23. And there you'll find the stage of meditation. It's called Dhyan Yoga. Dhyan means meditate, it's a type, the stage of meditation. And when one becomes totally absorbed in meditation, it's called Samadhi. And that Samadhi description, you read this text. I invite you, please do read it. The first two stages, we were spending some time with some students here about chanting. And mantra chanting has the first 2 of 7 effects, as it brings one to this stage of cessation of material existence. The nirvana stage comes directly from the first 2 of 7 stages of chanting. What happens? You don't know Sanskrit. but those of you that are from India, you have some idea what this means. Swa Rupena. Swa means one's own. Rupa means form. You're situated in Vyavastiti. Stiti means to be situated in. Vyavastiti. Swarupena Vyavastiti. It's your permanent situation. That's the form of a living entity. The living entity is that spark of life that's within the body that animates the body. And when the spark of life leaves the body, that's called death. And when the spark of life enters the body, it's called conception, and the body then grows and develops as long as the spark of life is there. And then we do activities. So what's the form of that living entity that's within? That's this beyond nirvana stage, the permanent situation of the form of the living entity, or after he gives up the changeable, gross and subtle material bodies. This is a Bhagavad Gita lesson. The Bhagavad Gita lesson says there's
Love is love. We must say it, love is love. Say what you have to say. What you have to say. Baby girl. You're a one.
I guess I can just talk louder. I can try that, see what happens. They may amp their volume up a bit too. But the president of the club went. The president of the club went. Okay. So I don't have to ramp it up.
She gonna say that. She's talking about your dad. Your mom.
Okay. Bhagavad Gita lesson is we have a gross body. In addition, there's a subtle body. The subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then there's the soul. It's something like, it's really easy. Supposing you have a diamond, you put the diamond in an envelope and put the envelope in another envelope. The valuable thing is the diamond, not the two envelopes. The two envelopes become valuable because there's a diamond inside. The soul is within the gross and subtle body. And when the consciousness of the soul is covered by misidentification with the gross and subtle body, that's material existence. And there's planes of material existence: bodily consciousness, mental plane, intellectual plane, and spiritual plane. The goal of yoga is to get to the spiritual plane while we're dealing with managing the physical, mental, and intellectual faculties that we have. You align them and manage them and engage them towards this higher destination. That's the goal of yoga, the process of yoga. We use the body, we use the mind, we use the intelligence, and direct those faculties towards transcendence. Now, here's a little example. Those of you that are from India, you know who Narada Muni is. That's Narada Muni on the left side. And Narada Muni tells the story of who he was before he was Narada Muni. We had this little discussion. Narada Muni is a fully enlightened soul, but in his previous life, he wasn't. In his previous life, he was a little boy that didn't even know who his father was. And he was living with his mother, and his mother's occupation was, she was looking after an inn or a dharmshala, a place where people would stay, pilgrims would stay when they're traveling through India. That was her occupation, and he was her son. So he assisted his mother. And during the 4 months of the rainy season, some great sages stayed at that inn. So the little boy got their association. There's details and details, but he served them whatever he could, bring their food and wash their clothes, and heard their talks, showed a very gentle nature, and they became affectionate towards him, gave him some spiritual teachings, gradually gave him a mantra, and then after the 4 months of the rainy season, they left. And he took that all inside, all of what they had given him. And then shortly after they left, his mother died. She was one day going to a well to get water. She was bit by a serpent, died. Here's a little boy, no mother, no father, and nothing. And so he took it as somehow a will of providence. And he went traveling for the rest of his life, doing this meditation and this mantra chanting. So he became a little bit worldly, experienced in the world rather than this little village where he was staying previously. And towards the end of his life, he experienced giving up his body, that's this one, and simultaneously as the soul left his body, he manifested the form of Narada Muni. He became a fully enlightened, or as you see on the upper left, Svarupena Vyavastati. It was the permanent situation of the living entity within that body that previously was a little boy and then eventually left the body and became Narada Muni. And to this day, Narada Muni travels about in a spiritual form and giving spiritual teachings. He's one of the teachers. Here's a little image showing a lamp. I like the image. It's meant to illustrate that living entity that's within is both conscious and consciousness. I'll say it again. The living entity that's within the body, that's who we are, is conscious and it's consciousness. Consciousness means just like a lamp, and it's burning in one place in a room, but the illumination spreads throughout the room. It's luminous and it gives illumination. So the soul is also conscious, but it also spreads consciousness. It spreads consciousness through our body, and through the senses, it spreads consciousness beyond the body. Like, hearing the neighbor next door with his voice, or seeing the whether it's daytime or nighttime outside, and seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting. Through our senses, consciousness extends beyond the body. So the soul, by definition, besides having desire, the soul is conscious and consciousness. And consciousness is within. The seat of consciousness. This image is showing a form that this little boy saw within his heart. He saw a form of the Supreme Soul. But according to the Vedic text, not only the Supreme Soul exists, but the individual soul is within this body side by side. See that little skinny guy on the right side? That's us. And then simultaneously, within each body is a form of the Supreme Soul. The Sanskrit word for soul is Atma. Atma means the soul. And there's the Supreme Soul, or Param Atma, that's side by side within the body. Maybe some of you have heard of the Upanishads. One of those Upanishads is Mundaka Upanishad, and it speaks of two birds within the same tree. And one bird is the witness bird. And the other bird is jumping from branch to branch, trying to enjoy the fruits of the tree. That's us, the living entity trying to enjoy, through the medium of the body, the activities of life, and enjoying the fruits of the activities of life, this situation, that situation, etc. And then there's the observer, the neutral witness. That's Paramatma. The Supreme Soul is situated within the heart of every living being, and is observing everything that we do, think, feel, speak, eat, smell, etc. Now I want to illustrate so that you can see there's the Supreme Soul, and there's the individual soul. And these two birds are situated in the same tree. This one is enjoying the fruits. This one is the witness. So here's a little illustration. It's ideal and it's something that we cherish and aspire for, is to have loving relationships, one soul to another soul. But to have a soul-to-soul relationship, it requires the medium of the super soul. So here's a nice fellow, nice Chinese man, and he has a friend. And they have some similarity. They both have nice beards. And they're both a little old. And another similarity is this one has a soul inside, and the other one also has a soul inside, but the soul is individual and different, because souls are individual and different. But they both share another similarity, and they both have the Supreme Soul situated inside. So this is a teaching that to have a loving relationship soul to soul, it's possible, it's desirable, it's the stage of full happiness and loving relationships when it's through the medium of a relationship with that Supreme Soul. Because let's just do it this way. There may be 25 of us here in this room. And however, it says 25. Then there's 25 living entities, tiny atmas, inside each one of us. Different. And then there's one Supreme Soul that's the same, that's within each one of us. So there's one Paramatma situated variously amongst the 25 of us. And that Paramatma is also conscious, but supremely conscious. That supremely conscious Paramatma is conscious of my pains and pleasures and your pains and pleasures. Got a cane there. Pain. And pleasure. So I'm conscious of my pains and pleasures, and you're conscious of yours, but I'm not conscious of yours, and you're not conscious of mine. But the Paramatma is conscious of everyone's. The Supreme Soul, because he's supremely conscious and he's situated equally in the heart of everyone. So if we can connect our consciousness with that Supreme Consciousness, that's yoga. Connecting your consciousness with the Supreme Consciousness. It's not that you become conscious of everyone's everything, but you have a sense of connectivity that then enables to have a loving relationship with another person who's connected to the same Supreme. In fact, it's not just your family members or friends, it's all living entities, because that same connection is there. When that stage is reached, it's euphemistic, but it's attainable. And those who are on the path of yoga can experience it to some degree, greater or lesser. And those that are on the path of yoga, it's beyond cessation of a chill existence. It's experiencing our positive existence, who we are, who another person is, and the relationship that exists between us and the Supreme Person. That's the path of yoga. And there's steps in that path of yoga. It's called the yoga ladder. And this is going to have an abrupt ending. So be ready. I'm not going to go on too much longer. The mantra meditation is a very essential part of the path of yoga. Remember the story of Narada. Narada, when he was a little boy, these saintly people that stayed at that inn or the residence place where his mother was working, from them he received a mantra. And he chanted that mantra for his life. And gradually, he became fully realized. And so we also receive some mantra. And the mantra meditation is something it's just a very simple sound vibration exercise. And ideal is mantra meditation in the mode of goodness. Remember that mode of being in the moment, where you're mindful. Next to the last slide. In 1960, the exploration thing was first going on. And my teacher, or spiritual master, was in India at the time. So he wrote a little book called Easy Journey to Other Planets. This is the cover to Easy Journey to Other Planets. Instead of sending, exploring of space through, Apollo rockets or whatever the methods are that were used at the time or are used presently, it takes one to a temporary place. But then this mantra meditation carries one even beyond. This is meant to show the universe and the coverings of the universe, beyond the coverings of the universe into the vastness of the spiritual sky, where the path of yoga can take one to, beyond cessation of material existence is to the spiritual existence. Here's a final comment. A good definition, I learned this from our teachers, a good definition of something both says what that something is and says what that something isn't. And it's incomplete if you say, here's what that thing isn't. Okay, that's what it isn't. What is it? And think of a nice example. Maybe some of you have seen when there's the musical instruments that are about that big around, and they're brass cymbals. Have you seen? Some of you have seen. Some of you have seen. So supposing I heard somebody's going to India, can you get me some cymbals? And, but they're not the big ones that they play on, the snare drums and the cymbals, not those really big ones. They're much smaller and they're a little thicker. And you'll get the ones that have a little hole in the middle and there's a little strap. Okay, we have some cymbals back here. Interesting. So if I could show it to somebody, get them like this. You see? That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But supposing, to have people get the right thing, I have to say what it is, but what it isn't. Simple. A good definition is both inclusive and exclusive. So if the definition of what higher consciousness is only exclusive, it's not this. Cessation of material existence, nirvana. Okay, great. That's what it isn't. What is it? Well, it's nirvana. So then there's the positive existence. That's the topic for this evening. The path of yoga is teaching this stage of consciousness that's beyond that which is temporary and connect with that which is eternal. We're having a nice time before you all came here, speaking about activities that are eternal, because we know of events that have a beginning and then they have an end. That's events that we know. You know, once upon a time, something, something, and then something happened, and then something else happened. A cause and effect of something that's an event. But what are those events that are not within the frame of time? It's beyond our experience because we only know past, present, future. So even if you're present, what's on the other side of present? That's what nirvana concept is. You're in the moment, you're in the moment, you're in the moment, you're in the moment, and you get really good at it and you're beyond the moment. So what's there? Negation or void. Path of Yoga teaches there is something that's on the other side of time as we know it, and that's time that's eternal. And that's where we belong. That's our place of happiness, where there's full contentment and our full activity with spiritual form, spiritual identity, spiritual happiness, spiritual connectivity with others, loving exchanges that don't have a beginning and end. And it's not just like a dream or utopia, it's what the teachings of yoga carry one to. And it's very simple. This mantra chanting is very simple. Maybe for some people too simple, because the mind wants something to stay busy with. But it's very simple. And aside with the simple, there's teachings that can help as consciousness becomes purified and elevated, teachings that can direct your activities towards that place of transcendence. You can identify how you're doing because you're on that trajectory, and there's measurements or criterion that you can use to evaluate how you're progressing. So that's the talk. Path of yoga, nirvana, beyond nirvana, the path of yoga. I think this is another nice image I like. This is Lord Chaitanya dancing and Krishna behind him playing a flute. And here's this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That can be done. One of the persons we were speaking with, he likes music. So it can be musically performed. It's very nice. And I'm going to share with him some recordings of some really fantastic orchestration of music along with the mantra. But the essence is the sound vibration of the mantra. And whether it's done in this way, just sitting peacefully in a quiet situation, or musically, the essence is that sound vibration. It carries one to the place that's beyond nirvana. Look at that. 12 minutes before the hour. I'm finished. Let's see if we turn the lights on. And if there's anybody that would like to discuss, something on topic or off topic is fine. My experience being here, I've been here for many years at the university, Texas A&M, and I find the discussions are really nice. And some of the persons I spoke with earlier, they've been involved in this club and its activities for a number of years. So if you're newer, that's fine. If you've been around a bunch, that's fine. See if there's any comments. We have a portable microphone. That was a stall technique to get the portable microphone going. Okay.
What is the difference?
We have some people online. Hopefully they'll be able to hear you.
Thank you for your talk. Just wanted to ask, what is the difference between chanting with the beads or without the beads?
It's easier for the mind to be engaged when there's music. Music is a medium of expression and communication, just in and of itself. So it gives some happiness and, absorption of the mind in the musicality of, engaging in chanting. And with this other type that's without music, it's just, there's three things: the sound, your mind, and the object that makes the sound. So it's easier for the mind to be restless because it wants engagement, more complete engagement. And something that's entertaining and, in and of itself attractive. But the best benefit from the music itself is the mantra, is the sound. So one is more engaging, and the other is more meditative by its nature. So when one becomes really proficient in the musicality, it's less the innuendos of the music itself, it's the beauty of the mantra. But it's a good doorway to get into the mantra. But some other people, I know some people that they find just is more nourishing and satisfying. And they have a little more difficult staying absorbed in the mantra when it gets to musical performance, because they get carried away with the music. And that's okay.
Appreciate the answer. I was more curious though, even if you're just doing japa, if you're doing it with beads or without beads.
Oh,
Because I've done it
both.
with beads, yeah, and went back to doing it without, and I actually find sometimes it could be more engaging without. I wanted to see if you could just speak about that.
Sure. Whatever works for you. That's you do that. The essence, there's a reason.
Connection issues, Maharaj. They're not too loud words sometimes because of some connection issues. And they have to check it if they come with a stand and.
What should I do? Just be patient? Trupti to the rescue. The reason that there's several reasons for the beads. One of the reasons for the beads is it adds another sense to the auditory sense and the speaking sense, the vibrating sense. It adds a tactile sense. It's not just this tradition, all traditions. I don't know if you've noticed, but all traditions have beads. And there's a reason. The tactile and the keeping count. One time I was at Cornell University, and the program was at the International Lounge within the student center. With this big stately building with, 3-foot thick walls and building. National
So my question was regarding while you are meditating, you are chanting and hearing. Do you also need a visual aid while chanting, as in the mantra in front of you, or is it something that is there for the initial people who are right and then you don't need it?
Whatever works. I don't. Some people do. And there are great acharyas that use that as a standard. There's a Sanskrit term for it, trataka. The whole mantra spelled out, and their eyes move with the mantra as they chant the mantra. For some people it helps, and so they do because it helps. Whatever works. The essence is absorption of the sound. Anything that assists that's good, or that's something to be considered. And it may be during some part of one's chanting, one does this, the other part one does that. Again, it's whatever, it's absorption of the sound. Manmana, the mind absorbed in that sound. So the mind being absorbed starts with the ear. That's a nice science too. The mind can be conquered by the ear. The mind, this is the teaching from Bhagavad Gita. The mind rules over the senses. The mind is sometimes described in Vedas as the sixth sense. The 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind makes 6. And the mind is the king, the ruler. But the ruler or the mind can be conquered by the ear. If one hears, the mind becomes conquered. If one doesn't hear, the mind is all over the place. Comedy. And that's the influence of these other modes, passion and ignorance. As goodness becomes more prevalent in one's being, then the mind can be more steady. It's like a candle flame in a windless place. It can be steady more easily in the mode of goodness. But then by hearing, it's locked, it's fixed. And that's what was in this verse. Those of you that don't have Bhagavad Gita, again, chapter 6, verses 20 through 23. There's a nice description of fixing the mind in the meditation process. Okay. Looks like you have something more?
No.
Okay. Okay. You can take the microphone. Yes. We're going to wrap up.
Okay, let's give a big round of applause for it. So this concludes our second session. And any vegan, vegetarians? Oh, vegetarians, of course, because we serve vegetarians. Also, I'd like to, as a final note, I would like to thank Rompad Maharaj for taking this time. He has been, so this club is here, and we are very grateful because he has been here with us for so long, and he helped us getting started on this club, and probably Tripti would be the right person to explain all the basics of that. So I'd like to invite Tripti for that. Let's give her a big round of applause. Bhakti Yoga Club.
Thank you, Rohit. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank His Holiness Rompad Maharaj. He's my spiritual teacher, my Guru Maharaj, and we met him at the Penn State University in a similar setting in the Bhakti Yoga Club at Penn State University. So it's been like, we met him in 2005, and since then he's been mentoring us, guiding us in our spiritual life, helping us advance in our spiritual life, and we are so grateful. We have, me and my husband, we both have benefited tremendously by his association, his guidance and mentoring. So very, very grateful. He's been coming to College Station since 2009. We moved to College Station 2008. And since then, he's been visiting us. And when I became,
years.
yeah,
How long has our yoga teacher been teaching yoga here?
right from day one, 2013. The club started in 2013, Maharaj, when I became a master's student here.
Okay.
Then I went on to complete my PhD. And those who don't know, we have Kannan here, who's a yoga teacher. So he's been with us right from day one, teaching yoga voluntarily. So he's associated with our club. And we're very grateful to him as well.
I gotta say something. Can't be frank, because I visit universities all over the place. And you're really fortunate. I like saying this. You're very fortunate. You have a very, very special yoga teacher. He's fantastic. I mean, he's gifted and you're very fortunate. So go to yoga classes.
So those who have not visited, like experienced Kannan's yoga. So next Friday, we'll have a better room in 601. So everybody is invited. It will be a free session. Get your friends as well. And that's a bigger room where I think we can accommodate like around 40, 50 people. So feel free to get your friends and you all also can come and experience his class. And again, next Friday, we're going to have another monk, His Grace Radha Krishna Das from Houston. And that's going to be a Ask Me Anything session. So take that opportunity. If you have any questions on spirituality or karma or any aspect, take that opportunity. We hardly get such opportunity. So, and if you still want to have any one-on-one questions to Maharaj, feel free to interact with him. And, or if you have any questions, students can benefit from your questions as well. So I'd like to thank George for asking nice questions. He always does, and many students benefit. So yeah, once again, thank you so much, Maharaj, for taking the time from your busy schedule and visiting us every semester. He's been doing that since 2009. We used to have a home program. Then when the campus program started, he's the one who encouraged us to start the Bhakti Yoga Club at TAMO. And then right from 2013, each semester, he's been visiting us. So grateful for his association, his sharing his wisdom, guidance, and experience. He's been practicing Bhakti Yoga for more than 40 years now. He also started his spiritual life on a campus as a student, as a medical student, and his journey is very inspiring as well. So very passionate to pass on this this spiritual knowledge to the young students, and he really values that, helping students move in the path of goodness and a Bhakti Yoga. So the normal structure, those who are here for the first time, I see many new faces. Those who are here for the first time, our session starts generally by Hatha Yoga by Kannan. And the second part of the session is always a philosophy of yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, and or mantra meditation, where we invite some monks and other speakers as well. So and followed by the vegetarian and vegan food. So that's like 3-part 9, like from 7 to 9 is our session. So next session is free to everybody. Everybody is welcome, and those who want to pay the dues for this semester, feel free to do that. We didn't do the check-in today, but feel free to do that. So thank you very much once again. Thank you for coming on a Friday evening, and go ahead and have the food. And those who are vegan, there are separate vegan boxes. So you all can take the to-go boxes, but feel free to have your food here as well. So don't feel you have to get out of the room and then have it. So thank you once again. Oh yeah, and sorry, yeah, we have a book table there. So we have Bhagavad Gita's there. So for any donation, feel free to give any donation to the club to recover the printing cost. And the chanting beads are there as well. So feel free to give any donation you like. Anybody had a birthday this month, March, like last month, sorry. Anybody? Nobody? Oh, you had a happy birthday. So we have a special gift for you. Feel free to take some gift for you when you leave the leave. So, yep.
Everybody wants to take, and currently don't have any cash or something, I can sponsor it.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, you have a sponsor as well. So take the advantage. We don't get that benefit every Friday. So do take the Bhagavad Gita. It's the manual for the human form of life, like how to lead the life. So it's a great book. It's a primary book for the yoga system. So take advantage. So, yep, go ahead and have your dinner. Thank you so much once again.